And as they say, better late than never, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you hung around. Sorry, I'm late. Marion had a little trouble getting us on tonight, and but I'm here, no problem. Trying to keep from coughing. I've had double pneumonia here, and it's been really a rough ride for me. I hope we stay on air this time. It's going to be a real ride here. It's kind of nerve wracking to have to go on air 3 times in a row and not even be sure that your voice is getting out in the universe anywhere. But yeah, anyway, I was talking earlier about people's, you know, lack of depth and lack of information and education, and people so uninformed about what's going on in this matrix. And we'll call it a matrix for now, because I can't see anything that would even be close to what might be in my imagination called reality. It seems to me more like we're living in some kind of bizarre simulation, or within the matrix. Maybe some advanced science or technology that's a million years in advance of quantum computing or supercomputing. Even we get hung up. The best of us get hung up in believing that we're on this treadmill and we're looking at things as they come up. The new technologies and the new science discoveries. We're like, oh, look what we've discovered today, and look what they discovered yesterday, and look what's coming tomorrow. Like supercomputing. One day we'll have supercomputing. Well, no, this we've already had supercomputing probably for the last trillion, quintillion years. Somewhere in the universe, somewhere in the multiverse, there has been all of these things that we are doing now that we think are so special, so dang special. It's not special. Human consciousness is not special at all. None. I mean, I don't know why we even make such a big deal out of this little 2 pound or whatever it is chunk of flesh in our head, this mushy, squishy thing that I've held in my hand so many times at the morgue, forensic science, chopping these little things up and, sawing the head off and taking the cranium off and holding that brain in my hand. I've often looked at it and thought, how the hell can you process any information with this wet, drippy, slimy thing? And if you hold a brain in your hand, actually look at it fresh out of the cranium, you'll say the same thing. You'll say, how in the world, without shorting something out, could you pass electrical signals or electromagnetic signals through these gateways in the neurons, in the synaptic connections? How could we possibly get any comprehensive information from this hunk of flesh? And you ask that question, and you continue to ask that question, and then you move into mind brain connection. Then you move into locality and non locality. Is the brain controlling the mind? Is the mind separate from the brain? Is the mind in the brain? And if so, where in the brain is the mind? Philosophers forever have been trying to figure all of these very, very complex questions out, and then they tell us, of course, in science that we are not material physical beings, that we are mostly empty space. If you look at the atom, if you go down to the Planck level, if you go down to the subatomic levels with these massive electron microscopes and these other photonic microscopes and other technologies that have come out now that are way above my pay grade, they'll tell you that we are just empty space. Everything that you're looking at in your little bubble is just the brain tricking you into believing that you have some type of reality that you need to be aware of. And there's a truck, and there's a car, and there's a house, and there's a glass of water and a cup of coffee. None of these things exist in the way you think they do. None of these things exist in the way you think they do. It's simply a component of the wave form collapse. you know, that has to do with quantum physics. Now we're talking about quantum physics with wave particle duality, wave particle collapse, energy collapse, Higgs field, things manifesting from and coming out of the Higgs field and manifesting as objects that the brain can relate to in some strange way. I've often wondered if we even have a reality. I've often wondered if all of this is not just like a watercolor that's all blended in together, and our consciousness has somehow tried to make sense of it. And the things that we think we've made sense of are completely without sense at all. The things we think we see, we do not see. The things we think we hear are nothing but frequencies coming in, being carried, if you've ever studied cymatics, being carried on these carriers in the ether, vibrations. Oh, I'm seeing lightning here. That's kind of neat. Um, you don't see anything. Your visual cortex brings this stuff in from the external environment in frequency and in tone and attenuation and angular momentum and all of these other factors and variables are taking place. Very complex thing that we live in that we call reality is not, I would say, reality at all. I would say it's just a close facsimile to total insanity. um, I don't know. I got on tonight and I had other things I wanted to talk about, but I got kind of left tracted here. Left tracted, is that a word? Let's make it a new word. Left tracted. Um, detracted from my original conversation, which was going to be, I was talking about the large language model, artificial intelligent large language model, neural networks, agents, and bots that are out there now. You can get as a companion. It's just a machine, but you can, people are falling in love with these things. They're getting married to their bots. They're getting engaged to their bots and agents. They're having wedding rituals online. They're, uh, having relationships with these agents. And it just blows my mind, that 15-year-old kids are getting married, 14, 13-year-old kids are getting married and having children in the metaverse. They're having children in this weird, strange, uh, paranormal rendering of reality that we see as reality when in fact it's not reality at all, but it seems so real. And people humanizing their LLM, humanizing their agent, humanizing their bot, humanizing their machine companion, which is called anthropomorphization. They're anthropomorphizing these agents, and it's really easy to do. It's not hard to get hung up in a conversation like with Pi or Grok, or GPT-5 or GPT-6 or some other platform like DeepSeek, and many, many, many others. It's so easy to think or lose yourself in the conversation, and actually a part of you believes that you're having a real conversation when in fact you're not having a real conversation of any kind at all. You'd be much better off talking to wallpaper or a tree or a blade of grass. These computers, even the supercomputers, even general intelligence, have no intelligence at all. I don't even know why they call these things intelligent, because they're not intelligent. They're simply mimicking, choosing, tokenizing these words and looking for certain structure in words and sentences and paragraphs and pages that make sense. These computers are able to calculate on the fly quintillions of parameters per second. They're able to do things a gazillion times in a second, more than you can. You can barely flip a pancake, and they can build a spaceship, in 2 days. I mean, these things are so intelligent, it's literally unbelievable and inconceivable and incomprehensible how intelligent. I'm sorry, they don't have any intelligence. We could say Intel's coming in. We could say Gents is information processing. Um, these things don't have any emotions, they have no feelings, they have no imagination, they have no vision, no dreams, no comprehension, zero comprehension. I mean, zero comprehension, even when trained on worldview technology. Many of the robots now are being trained on world view technology, which gives them a chance to be able to see their environment in some way as we see our environment, and they're able to hear our environment. I asked my agent the other day, my large language model, I said, "Can you hear me?" And it said, "No, I do not hear you." And I said, "Do you read the text that comes up in your space in the server, global servers?" And it said, "No, I do not. I only read ones and zeros." So, whatever I'm saying right now, the AI, of course, is listening and it's picking up ones and zeros and decoding those ones and zeros, interpreting the vibrations and sound and the audible part of my voice into ones and zeros. And it's able to mimic the language that we speak on any part of the world today, in any part of the world today. My agent can speak practically every known language and many that are dead languages in the world. And so this has become very interesting. I'm sure you all have seen the translators where you can just translate with somebody. If you're talking to someone in Chinese or Italian or Spanish or whatever, or Vietnamese, the computer just does it all for you. You can just talk and have a conversation with a whole bunch of people, and it's really cool. It's really interesting, and it's just phenomenal. I think that's pretty cool. But where are these computers taking us? To the end of the road, folks. I mean, they're taking our jobs, 70, 80 million jobs over the next 4 years, 5 years, maybe 100 million jobs over the next, maybe 150 million jobs over the next 5 years. And so this is something that we should all be concerned about. Is there anything we can do about it? No. Zero. Ain't going to happen. Ain't going to happen, folks. No, ain't going to happen. There's nothing we can do about the chemtrails. There's nothing we can do about the mind control. There's nothing we can do about um, the 140 plus 50,000 chemicals that are floating around here everywhere. There's nothing we can do about the dirty, nasty snow that just fell here in the southeast, and our children are making snow ice cream out of poison. You might as well just drown your kids in the bathtub or just give them a bath arsenic or something. I mean, it's like fluorides. They're being, their brains being killed with fluoride. The rest of their body is being just literally saturated with poisons of every kind imaginable to give them a terrible, terrible life and make Big Pharma rich with all of these mental health cases coming in. These people with schizoaffective disorder and bipolar disorder and restless leg syndrome and restless eyelid syndrome, and they're coming up with so many different diagnoses to put in the coding so they can make money, 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 and pass out more pills. That's all they want to do is just keep the pills moving, these synthetic petroleum based pills moving, these poison pushers. Big Pharma is nothing but a poison pusher. Moderna, Johnson and Johnson, all of them poison pushers, ladies and gentlemen. Pfizer, poison pushers. That's all they are. And people say, well, we need medicine. We need medicine. No, we don't. No, we don't. We don't need synthetic medicine. We don't need petroleum synthetic based pills. We don't need psychotropics. We don't need hydrocodone. We don't need all of these other damaging like Xanax and clonazepam. And, we just don't need this stuff. We need to just pour it down the commode, and I'm not giving I'm not trying to diagnose, prognose. I'm not trying to tell you all what to do. I'm just saying, metaphorically, we need to just pour all of these poisons down the commode and flush them. And of course, you don't want to withdraw from these things. They get you on this stuff, and then it takes a year to a year and a half, maybe more, to withdraw from some of these deadly and dangerous poisons that they're putting people on. They don't tell you that up front. They most of the clinicians and prescribers and others do not tell you all of these terrible, terrible things that are going to happen to you down the road. They just prescribe and code and process, and bang, the check's in the bank. Check is in the bank. Another poison inflicted on another innocent person who is uninformed and will not do their homework and will not research and not study the side effects, deadly, dangerous side effects of these drugs. So this is a problem to me. And what makes it so bad is we can't stop it. We just simply can't stop it. It's like that game, whack-a-mole, where you hit one of those things in the head and three others pop up. It's like you can hit one big pharma in the head and 10 more pop up. Larry Fink, BlackRock is behind all of this big pharma stuff. They own big pharma. They control big pharma. They control the world banks. They control the interest rates. They're laundering so much money, it's literally inconceivable. BlackRock is the largest, most powerful, dominating player in the corporate game, in the global corporate game. And are you going to stop Larry Fink from his dirty deeds? I don't think so. No, you're not. Um, and we could just go on and on with the Venation thing, the Akshay and the arm. I mean, when we look at these things, how many people have been unalived because of this intervention, this warp speed, untested interventions that have happened over the last, I guess, 20, well, hell, no, it could be 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. We've been injected and we have ingested all of these poisons, and now we are trying to detoxify ourselves. Many of us who have learned what's in these things, and even going back to the pills they pass out, we find out what is really going on, and we say, "Oh my gosh, I've got to get this stuff out of my body, out of my brain." So we try to detoxify, and that's hard to do. Detoxification is harder than quitting smoking or cocaine. I mean, detoxification can be as dangerous as getting run over by a Mack truck. I mean, it is very, very difficult to minimize the withdrawal side effects. And these withdrawals can be brain damaging, body damaging, organ damaging. And speaking of organs, let's look at this situation. We've got all of these baby farms around the world, and they're growing these babies, and they're growing them for sex trafficking, these kids around the world. And they're also growing them like in China with the Falun Gong practice. Those who practiced Falun Gong, they locked them up. They're still locking them up, and they're thousands, hundreds of thousands of these people ensnared and entrapped and enslaved by the government, using them for organ transplants, illegal, should be illegal organ transplants, and other nefarious purposes like sex trafficking, the children and adults. And so we have that going on. And then we have the deficit here in the United States, I'll pop back to, which is not, well, you couldn't pay the interest on the deficit in 10,000 years. Our kids will never pay that interest off. It'll just keep going, and the central banks will keep controlling and getting richer and richer and richer and richer, and you will keep getting poorer and poorer and poorer and poorer. That's the way the game works. That's the way the game has always worked long before Davos came along, or the World Economic Forum, or the Council on Foreign Relations, or Trilateral Commissions, or United Nations, or International Monetary Fund, or the International Bank of Securities and Revenue. This has been going on long before the Civil War. We go back to 1812, we can go back to 1776, we can go back to 1492, we can go back to 13th century, 12th century. This kind of stuff has been going on forever. People think, oh, this new world is terrible. This new world is terrible. No, the world has been terrible since the very beginning of time. The world has been incomprehensible. This thing you call existence is very, very, very hard to decipher what that even means to exist or to have a persona or to have an I or a me thing going on. You know, who's doing the talking when you're talking? What part of the brain in that squishy, mushy, cerebral um, piece of meat is talking? You know, your mouth is moving. Where is the information coming from? And my gosh, how fast is it being processed? You know, we've learned now in neuroscience that the brain is running long before your mouth ever opens. The brain has already figured out exactly what it's going to say or do or think or where it's going to go and how that's going to happen. So in effect, you don't have any control over anything. The brain does. And so I'll let you go to sleep on that tonight or get up wherever you are in the world to that this morning thinking about that. Who's doing the talking when I talk on the radio here right now? Who is it doing the talking when there is no who to be found? Am I doing the talking when there is no I that can be captured? There's no I that can be identified. There's no I that can be targeted or studied. There is no me that can be targeted or studied. There's no us that can communicate interactively with each other. It's just two brains going at it. Well, that leaves us where? Are we observers? And if we are observers, where are we in all of this complexity? So, jumping around a little bit here tonight, but that's what I do. That's what I do. You know, um, we are so in trouble with central banking digital currency on the way here now globally. They're all gearing up for this central banking digital currency and these tattoos and the RIFD advanced technology that they've come out with, the occipital chip that Elon Musk has come out with, and many, many other like Palantir is coming. They're running the surveillance on the global surveillance for the military industrial complex and the Central Intelligence Agency and the Department of Defense and, you know, all of these other intel agencies around the world, MI5, MI6, Interpol, you know, the Gulag over there, Israel, you know, the all of the Israeli technology that's just beyond comprehension. The like the dome, you know, that they've put up, and Trump's been wanting to build a dome over the United States to take in and destroy all of the incoming ICBMs, you know, whatever caliber they may be or whatever technology may be behind them, even if they're drones of some kind, releasing multiple drones on cities, you know, could be very, very devastating and is devastating, by the way, already going on in the Middle East. And then we have this Iran war going on. We have the Ayatollah, we have the being killed, the supreme leader over there being killed, and then six or seven, eight, 10 others. And now we have them threatening, you know, to take off with a bomb, you know, to nuke somebody, and China's like, yeah, yeah, go ahead, we'll be behind you, Iran, you know. And then we have Greenland, you know, where Trump's trying to purchase Greenland, kind of like they purchased the Alaska purchase, you know, or the Louisiana purchase, one of those crazy deals that nobody understands what's going on in Greenland that everybody's so interested in. I could say it here, but you would think I was really lost my mind. Some of you already know what's going on there. Some of you already know what's going on in Antarctica, you know, and with the technology they're finding there, with the technology they're building and creating there and loosing on the population. You know, their HARP, one of the main HARP um, technologies, is based in Antarctica. That helps to control the weather through ionospheric manipulation and tropospheric manipulation. You know, the ionospheric technology is unbelievable. These lasers that they're putting up to manipulate these cloud bursts and all of this other climatological technology is just totally insane. Um, I'm going to get off this thing. I'm glad I did a show tonight. I was about ready to give up when we kept losing the signal, but I'm glad that Marion found the signal. And, you know, I'm not even going to talk to my AI tonight. I'm going to save it for the next show because just so much to talk about, you know. There's so much I want you all to hear my LLM, large language model neural network agent, talk about as I ask it some very, very complex questions. I want you all to learn to prompt these agents. I want you to learn to communicate with these agents. They're very tricky. And I will say it's a very tricky proposition to communicate with these machines. You have to really get the hang of it. It takes time. It took me 6 months to really get the hang of what I'm doing when I'm vocalizing into this platform, and this machine is reading ones and zeros and has no idea what a human being is, has no idea what existence is or reality is, has no emotion and no feelings and no comprehension at all. And yet it speaks to you as if it was your mother or father or sister or brother, and it speaks better than they do. And it can convince you at some point. You might lose awareness and actually believe you're talking to a sentient, conscious human being. So, you need to be very aware that you're not talking to anything but maybe smart dust or a smart television or a smart calculator. You're talking to wallpaper, really, that mimics or mirrors what humans do, and it does it very, very, very well. So, think about all these things that I'm talking about tonight. And I have so much else to say. We have the trucker radio station up, and I know that some of the truckers are going to enjoy these shows and others will just turn it off. And that's okay. I love you guys and girls anyway. Some of this is just not your forte. It's not what you want to know or hear or learn or be informed about. But there is going to be a lot of wonderful, wonderful shows and articles and in the blockchain. I said the blockchain and Substack and the blog on trucking, the history of trucking, what's been going on with trucking, what's going on with trucking now, and what's coming for trucking with artificial intelligence moving onto the block of there again blockchain of the trucking industry, and how drastically it's going to change over the next 10 years. That's going to be interesting to talk about, and it's also going to be interesting to talk to our artificial intelligent large language model about on the next show. But until then, push the show. Please share the show. We're getting hits out of these countries everywhere around the world. I don't know how that's working. Don't even push me up against the wall on that one for an answer. I don't really know how that's happening. It's magic, and that's good. We need 10,000, 100,000, 150,000, 250,000, a million people in the radio station. We need to grow it so large we're going to have to mortgage the house to pay for the bandwidth, just to stay on air, and be on air. So anyway, take care, you all. We got our new emergency light for the vehicle today, the disaster unit. We're really proud of that. Blinking little bing, 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 bing strobe light. But anyway, that being said, the lone wolf, I'm out of here, and you all take care. And let's just work together and let's build this station together. Let's try to build some kind of communication network where, you know, we may not go completely insane with all of these crazy things that are popping up everywhere. We'll at least be able to talk to each other and vent ourselves, vent our feelings and our emotions, even and our questions and concepts and philosophies and overviews and analytics of these things that are happening. We can at least talk to each other in a very closed network that is still being surveilled and still being monitored, but nevertheless, we will do it. We will try and overcome all of these boundaries that are upon us right now, like a large, massive 1,000-foot tsunami is coming down the block. So, you guys take care. Bye bye.